Bringing us back from all this madness, we have Miss Janet.
As was explaining earlier, a friend of mine, I won't move the microphone, although I didn't, and there you go. A friend of mine that had moved to Chicago is in town. I was hanging out, and she's actually in town, but she wasn't able to come here. And I brought some poems for her to hear. And I feel bad, but I'm going to read them anyway. And so if she comes to the open mic tomorrow, I'm going to read the exact same thing so she can hear them then. See, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, it's really good. Go ahead and use the other one.
Should I go to the other?
Yeah.
Switch. All right. Wait. Just because it's brighter light, I'm just going to read them a little bit closer and hope that they don't freak each other out. Hope that helps. Hi. So I thought I'd read one poem each from each of these 3 different collection books here, so I'm going to slam these down. And they are past poetry performance art collection books. This is chapter 38, volume 1. And I thought I would share with you the first poem from the first show I ever did in my life with you. And in it is this poem. It's called And I'm Wondering. And I'm wondering if there's something chemical that brings people together, something that brings people to their knees, something that sucks them in. And I'm wondering if you're sensing what I'm sensing. Is it all me? Am I just making this all up in my head? Or when I glance up and I catch your eyes, well, were you actually staring at me? And I'm wondering if it could work out this time, if we'd have one of those relationships that nobody ever doubts, especially us, because we know we are in love. And I'm wondering if you'd find my neurotic pet peeves all conscious or charming, because I'd hate it when people touch my belly because I'm so self-conscious or something. And I'm wondering why you had to tell me when we happened to be sitting next to each other that the fact that our legs were almost touching was making your heart race. And I'm wondering why I felt the need to take your cigarette and inhale, exhale, while the filter was still warm from your lips there just seconds before. And I'm wondering if maybe a year or 2 from now, if we've been in this, going out for a while, and we've gotten into this comfortable rut and we're bored with each other, I wonder if you saw me making macaroni and cheese in my kitchen, and I'm using margarine and water because I don't have any milk, and I've got my hair pulled back and it's all tied around me, and the extra hair like now is falling around into my eyes, and I'm wearing an oversized button-down denim shirt and nothing else. Well, what I'm wondering is if you would see me like this and still think I was sexy. Well, when I glance up and I catch your eyes from across the room, when I see your eyes dart away, when I feel this chemical reaction, well, what I'm wondering is, do you feel it too? Thank you. Because there's a lot of stuff I remember many years. So, and this is chapter 38, volume 2. Yes, I went out and photographed rocks of different colors, and that was where this came from. And this is a piece that wasn't my first show, but it was on Loyola Beach in Chicago, and this is called Clay. So I was at this bar. It was on the coast of Florida, the west coast, the Gulf Coast, you know. And it was at a place that was called Lana Kai, and my friend gave me a ride all the way from Naples, which was a good 45 minutes south of the place. And so we were sitting at this bar, which was half indoors and half out on the beach, and all these old men kept staring at my friend's chest. A couple guys gave us a beer, and one guy asked me to dance, but I was surprised he asked me to dance and not my friend. Men are always more attracted to her. But these guys were just jerks anyway. One looked like he was a Marine with having his hair, and he must have been high on something. And one of them looked like he had decided to forego hygiene, and another one was twice my age. It's not as if I was trying to pick up any guys anyway. So after a while, I couldn't take standing at this bar next to this reggae band that was playing. I never really liked trying to dance to reggae music anyway. So I decided I was going to beg for my friends that we could actually get out on the beach and get our feet wet. Oh, Christ, I love the feel. I felt like a 10-year-old again, with a bucket and shovel when I kicked off my suede shoes and I started running my toes through that sand. I always love the feel of sand when you're drenched in water. It feels like clay as it seeps around my toes, pulling me into the ground. So there I was, splashing around the water, wearing a black sequin dress and throwing my purse onto the shore, taking a swig from a can of Miller Lite. This was life, I thought, pure and simple. An army couldn't drag me away from this water. So my friend found some guy to hit on, as she usually does, and then she wanted me to hit on his friend. I found this guy ugly as all sin and impossible to talk to. So I told her right there and there, actually one of these rafts that were out here was something that we actually came in on in order to get to the bar. And this guy believed me. But I told my friend that there was no way I was going to talk to this guy, and she was pissed at me that I didn't find this guy attractive. And so then he strolled up from the bar on the beach, an interesting stranger, and he walked up right next to me in the water. He was still wearing his shoes, and he was standing deep in the water, and like he knew that I needed some rescuing. I needed to be saved, and he would be my knight in shining armor. And he said hello to me, and he started talking to me, and he cracked jokes to me, and he made me laugh. And okay, I have to actually admit it, he was actually really good looking. I mean, really good looking too. I remember at one point looking at him and thinking that this was like a Greek statue. He had this curly hair and this sharp chin and these strong cheekbones, but those Greek statues could never talk back to you. They have no color. They don't come alive. They're made of stone. His name was actually Clay. And he talked, and he crept his way into my pores, the way that sand did when it was between my toes. His voice tunneled into me, boring me hollow, making me anxiously wait for his next words. My friend disappeared with her newfound monosyllabic lover, and then they disappeared, and it was well after the bar had actually closed, leaving me stranded there. And there I was, 45 minutes away from my home at 2:30 in the morning, with no means of transportation. It could have been worse. I could have been somewhere other than on a beach. I could have been sober, and I might not have had the knight in shining armor named Clay to come and save me. And he drove me home, an hour and a half out of his way, mind you. I couldn't help but to run my fingers through his hair. I was telling him I was doing it just to try to keep him awake for the drive. It's almost better if I never see him again. Then I can always think of him this way. Clay. I feel weird because this is from my girl in Chicago. I've never read this poem in Texas before, but this is a poem that is called New to Chicago. And I'll explain that this is just something about one of the buildings that I like down there. And this is a poem called New to Chicago. I'm still new to this city. I know, I've lived here for years, but I haven't gone to the Sears Tower Observatory since my junior prom. But when I walk by the first Chicago building, this building that has long beams along the north side, sloping up, parabolic pillars curving up toward the sky, whenever I walk by this first Chicago building, I walk up along the side and lean up against one of those sloping pillars. I press my body against the cold concrete, feel the cold against my chin, my breasts, my thighs, and I look up along that curve, stretching up toward the sky. And you know, those pillars look like racetracks, and I could see something come rushing down that curve toward me. A marble, a bowling ball, a matchbox car, a race car, a 2-ton weight. I see the speed, I see the power, and it almost makes me afraid to look up. But every time I walk by this first Chicago building, I do this same thing. I do this little ritual, and it feels like the first time. Thank you.
it up for Janet.